Breaking news in college football, Spencer Rattler entering the transfer portal. The former top 10 recruit started the first 6 games of this season for Oklahoma. They won all 6 of those games, but Rattler was not impressive. Benched for Caleb Williams. This was the preseason Heisman favorite. And some of our draft experts had him going first round in the NFL draft as well. Well, everything has changed now, including the coaching staff at Oklahoma. So Spencer Rattler, you look at the regression this season and kind of go down to that bottom note there. The touchdowns and interceptions, 34 touchdowns last season, just 13 this season. His passing yards per game went way down. Just not effective this season for the Oklahoma Sooners. Let's bring in Chris Hummer, who covers the transfer portal for 24/7 Sports. Chris, I don't think this is a surprise to anybody. Even before the Lincoln Riley news, we expected Spencer Rattler to hit the transfer portal. Where might he end up? Where might he be looking at this point?
Yeah, the first place I'd bring up is Arizona State. Obviously, Jaden Daniels is still at Arizona State, former elite recruit himself in the same recruiting class as Spencer Rattler. But Jaden Daniels only threw 8 touchdowns to 9 interceptions this year. He really struggled, and I think there's a chance he looks for a fresh start. And if that's the case, Arizona State is a really natural landing spot for Spencer. He grew up 15 minutes from that campus. They were in the mix a little bit early in his recruitment. That was before Herm Edwards' staff really got going when he committed to Oklahoma. So I would first look towards Arizona State. I think the West Coast is the more likely option for Spencer. There's a chance he ends up at Arizona. I think Spencer probably wants to compete for championships, so I don't consider that nearly as likely, because Arizona is probably a couple years away from being in the Pac-12 mix. I've heard a little bit of Oregon buzz, frankly. Oregon has Anthony Brown at quarterback right now, which has probably cost them a game or two this season. They have Ty Thompson, a former top 50 recruit, waiting in the wings. Everybody kind of considers him the future there. I don't know if they'd want to scare off Ty Thompson, which is what you would probably do by bringing in Spencer Rattler, but he is an option. And maybe a place like Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to lose Matt Corral. There's no more friendly QB system in the country than what Lane Kiffin and Jeff Levy put together. And I think if you put Spencer Rattler right in that mix, he'd be one of the best quarterbacks in the country again.
Okay, Ole Miss, Oregon, Arizona State, some of the possibilities. How is he being looked at in the transfer portal now? If this was a year ago, he would be number one among anybody in the transfer portal. But after the season he had, basically the half season he had before being benched, how has he been docked, if at all?
I think he's certainly been docked. I talked to a player personnel director at a Power 5 school the other day because we were anticipating Spencer going in before today, before the Lincoln Riley news happened. We expected him in earlier this week, and that school is going to stay away from Spencer. They're going to look at other QB options. They need a quarterback. So he's not going to be at the top of everybody's list. His personality is going to rub some people the wrong way, to be frank. I like Spencer personally, but there are some concerns about him off the field for some people. So I don't think he's going to be the most popular quarterback in the portal. But from a pure arm talent perspective, from a pure talent perspective on the field, what he can do out of structure, what he brings to an offense, there's going to be somebody taking a chance on Spencer Rattler because he's just that good.
And that's why he was the preseason favorite to win the Heisman Trophy, led Oklahoma to a bunch of late season success after those early losses last year. Coming into this season, I mean, you look at the record, he was 6-0, but he just wasn't effective. What was the difference this year for Rattler compared to last?
To be honest, and I don't want to be an excuse maker for Spencer Rattler because some of it's on him. He still is really loose with his decision making sometimes. He has 3 or 4 balls a game where you really just kind of wonder what the hell he was thinking. But that offensive line that Oklahoma has was not as good as it's been in years past. Lincoln Riley, I think, really struggled to adjust to that early. Defenses were doing a little something different to Oklahoma defensively all year. And I think Lincoln Riley, without the elite offensive line he's usually had, has struggled to find answers. And I don't think that wide receiver group was quite as good as we all expected it to be. Marvin Mims struggled to get going this year. Jaden Hazelwood was banged up a little bit. Theo Wease, who was one of Spencer's favorite targets, missed most of the season with an injury. That wide receiver group just wasn't what we expected. And part of that's on Spencer, part of that's on Caleb Williams as well. But I think all of that kind of had to do with Spencer Rattler regressing the way we saw.
Talking with Chris Hummer from 24/7 Sports. The season began with Oklahoma and Texas leaving for the SEC. Now it's a mass exodus from Norman before they head to the SEC. It's the former staff. They're gone. You have Spencer Rattler, former player. He's entering the transfer portal. And, Chris, so many of these high-level blue-chip prospects have already decommitted, including Malachi Nelson and Brandon Innes, both 5 stars, both playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. What is the status right now, the state of the Oklahoma football program as they look for a new head coach?
Yeah, I mean, Malachi Nelson didn't come to Oklahoma to play for Oklahoma. He came to Oklahoma to play for Lincoln Riley. And I think several of those offensive commits, as we've seen, were no doubt going to decommit from Oklahoma. Oklahoma's just looking for a head football coach. There are lots of names being thrown out there, but I don't know if there's a surefire answer. Like, does Jeff Levy, Brent Venables, Mark Stoops really get the people excited the way you had with Lincoln Riley? And I think Oklahoma's going to be fine. Oklahoma always has been fine. Oklahoma's been one of the best programs in college football history, and will probably stay that way. But I think there's a level of uncertainty right now with the transition to the SEC. And I certainly think that played a part in Lincoln Riley choosing to go to USC as well. So Oklahoma's just really entering a tenuous tenure as they make that transition to the SEC, introduce a new head football coach, and likely lose a significant portion of their roster via the transfer portal and through kind of the recruiting decommitments that we're seeing. So they need to get somebody in quickly. The early signing period's coming up in 2 weeks. And Joe Castiglione's considered one of the best athletic directors in college football, and justifiably so. And he's got his work cut out for him.
As they say, be careful what you wish for. That Oklahoma job now becomes a lot less desirable, a lot more difficult to win as they transition to the SEC over the next 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 years. Chris Hummer with us here from 24/7 Sports, specializing in the transfer portal. Spencer Rattler, no surprise, entering the transfer portal today. 24/7 Sports, recruiting rankings and transfer portal updates all the time.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.